Hey, happy Friday. I'm Paige Bayliss and welcome to my vlog thing. I've been thinking about doing this for a while, but I've never really got round to it, and then I've been like chatting to some people that are quite special to me, and they pretty much just said just go ahead and do it. I've got like two main reasons why I felt the need to do this sort of thing. And the first one is for myself, because I feel like what I've gone through with this whole situation has made me so much of a better person. And there's also a side where, so number two is that I feel like there's not enough awareness when it comes to things like, I don't know, I feel like when people come across animals that are in need or need that little bit of help, they sort of go, oh, well, the next person can do it, or it's not the right time, or I'm not the right person. I just think that sometimes if you just take that chance and you go for it, you never know unless you actually try. And I did that. I took that chance, and it's got me in such a good place. Basically what today will be is just me going over how I got Toto, and basically just an update of the last 7, nearly 8 months, because I didn't think of doing this when I got him. It would have been better starting it from day one, and you all could have joined in from the first day I sort of brought him into my care, but it wasn't possible then. He took up so much of my time and my energy, and it just wasn't the right time for that. But I feel like now it is. He's in a much better place, as am I, and I feel like now it's time for his journey to be known by so many, by so many more people than it is. So yeah, Chewy, get off my lap, thank you. So here goes. I came across Toto because I was sharing 2 horses in Wheat Hampstead area, and I love those 2 horses, bless them, they were lovely. And the yard that I was on bought him for the daughter, and it just so happened that she'd also just come across a cute little grey mare that she actually liked more, so he wasn't given the attention or love, I guess, that he deserved, and that does a lot to horses. He obviously was bought in a bad condition as it was. I'm not saying it was all them people, but obviously we don't know his history. All I know is that he wasn't in a very good place. I fell in love with his little face from the day one. I got driven to the yard and I saw him just standing there in the outdoor school, and I've never wanted to understand anything more than I did him, and I'm not someone that doesn't really get vibes like that. I never really am too interested, but he had something in his eyes that was just heartbreaking. So obviously I used to go there pretty much every day, and I just get more and more attached to him. It was difficult because he was so untrusting. It took me about a week to even get to touch his neck. He'd just run away. He hated it. But yeah, anyway, so I think it was like a month maybe went by, and then I got news. Within that time, I sort of was like hinting to people that I really liked him. No one agreed with me that I sort of should have got him. I really wanted to. Everyone else was like, no, it's not a good idea, like, yeah. But they then said that they were going to be getting rid of him, selling him on back to the auctions, I don't know, and that broke my heart. But the girl that I was sort of sharing the horses with knew how much I wanted him, and she bought him. And when she sent me that text, that day was like amazing. yeah, I can't even describe it. It was something that you really want but can't have, has just come available to you. Yeah, so that night I actually went up there and sort of looked him over a bit more, realised how bad his condition was, but I still went ahead of it. A couple of months later, he was officially mine. I'd bought him, blah, blah, blah. And so the first thing that I did was go to the local feed shop. I got some feed, I got some bedding, and I also got a vet out. That was hard hitting for me because the vet actually said that he wasn't worth a penny, that I'd basically been taken the massive piss out of. He said that I would never ever get him back, both physically and mentally. He said if you do, on the low chance, get him back physically, there was no chance that I'd get him back mentally. In horses, they have this thing where if you lose this spark in their eye, people believe that you don't get it back, you can't get it back. When they're that far gone, nothing you do, or no matter what you do for them, you can't get them back. So that was a hard evening for me. He had a lot of things checked over. Him himself physically was fine. Well, not fine, but he didn't have anything wrong with him other than the fact that he was completely emaciated and lost, I guess. Yeah. So that for me was a big eye-opener. I knew that I had a lot of work to do. Yeah, so I had a lot of time to think, and I decided that him being in Wheathampstead was not good enough because I'm from Hertford area, so I was having to rely on people to get me there every day, which sometimes couldn't happen, which meant that he wasn't given the care he needed, and that just was not fair. What he'd been through, I wasn't willing to put him through it again or anything like that. So I started looking for a yard closer to home, and I came across Etteridge Farm. And I was amazed at how quickly I managed to get that sorted. I sort of explained to the sort of owner of the livery that I went to, Laura, how bad the situation was, and I was going through some stuff at that time as well. So I just needed a new start, and I felt like he needed a new start, and at that time that was the best thing to do for him and me. So Laura, pretty much, she was amazing. We had a chat, we sorted it out, and I think it was like 2 days after we spoke about it, she came and picked him up. I remember that day, it was horrendous. I had so many emotions and so many thoughts in my head. I was terrified. I thought, what if she refuses to take us because she thinks that I've done this to him? Everything like that was going in my head. I was terrified. But then the minute she turned up, she was amazing. She made me laugh. She made me feel so comfortable. She sort of, on the way to her yard, we had a good few chats, and it sort of cleared everything up, and I don't know, I just felt like I trusted her, and I felt like at that point I was already so protective over Toto. I didn't want him going to anything less than best, and I felt like I'd really hit a jackpot with that place. So yeah, that was moving in day with that. And even in the first day, people think it takes horses like a certain amount of time to relax into their new environment, but I genuinely, he loved it. He was relaxed, he was calm, he didn't seem stressed. So that was a very good start for us, in my opinion. Again though, when I got there, I had all the same feelings that I had with Laura about all the people at the yard. I was like, oh my God, what if they think that I've put him in this place? What if they think that I don't know what I'm doing? I'm still young. Like, you wouldn't understand the amount of people that judge me and sort of look down on me like I don't know what I'm doing with them because of my age. So that was hard, but everyone there, I can't say one bad word about. They're lovely. They were all so welcoming. It was quite emotional because obviously everyone was like in and out throughout the day, sort of seeing Toto how he was, and it's sort of hard hitting hearing everyone going, "Oh my God, what's happened to him?" like, and all that lot. And it's sort of, obviously I know how bad he is, but when there's that many people saying it, you're like, oh shit, oh God, like, how am I going to do this? But yeah, the first day was very good. He continued to get more comfortable. He absolutely loved the fact that people would come up and stroke him and give him a fuss, because obviously in the yard before that there weren't many faces, so for him to go from that to having everyone that was there sort of walking up to him, talking to him, giving him treats, like fussing him, he absolutely loved it. And it was amazing for me to see him sort of already come out of his shell, and obviously physically he wasn't anywhere then, he was still skin and bones, bless him, but it was funny because we started to see something in him that I hadn't seen, but I didn't clock then. I was sort of looking for the worst in a way. It was quite bad, but when you see something every single day and you spend so much time and energy on them, you don't realise how well it's going until it actually clocks. And that for me only actually clocked like a couple of months, well, not even that long ago, like a month ago. But yeah, so he started his recovery at Etheridge Farm. At that point I was going through a really tough point in my life, and then it sort of was made worse because I'd put myself in the position where I was responsible for something very fragile and something that needed me all the time, and I had a lot of people doubting me and a lot of people telling me I wasn't doing the right thing, that I should get rid of him, I wouldn't be able to do it, I was going to fail, he was going to die. I had so many people just putting me down. It really got to me, but I think that kept me going because everyone that knows me knows that if I get told I can't do something or I won't be able to do something, it makes me want to do it so much more. And I know everyone says that, but I really am a stubborn one. So I thank everyone that put me down and that sort of said that it wasn't going to happen, because thanks to you, I've done it, or we're on the way to doing it. And so yeah, thank you in a way. But yeah, so I started at that point. He was on good feeds. He was on the vet's recommendation, he was on 3 feeds a day, morning, breakfast, lunch and dinner. Thanks to Laura, he was getting them all. I'd obviously be making them and she'd be giving them. And so, yeah, he was finally getting into a proper routine. He was going out in the mornings, coming in, getting his lunch and then having his dinner. We started exercising him. Only things like light lunging and long reining, and I was taking him on walks through the woods like a little dog, big dog, just to get him used to the surroundings, because I knew that I wasn't going to have him as a field ornament. I wanted to make something of him because I knew that he had more to give. So I thought if I get him started early, by the time I get round to riding him, it'll be fine, because he'll get used to it and he'll know the way I work and I'll know the way he works. So he loved it. I got told I shouldn't be doing things like going out with him because he'd spook, and he's a thoroughbred, so they're a bit sketchy, but he was amazing. I couldn't fault him. He made me feel so comfortable. He made me feel safe, and I hope I did the same for him. So everything was going incredibly well. He was putting on so much weight. Muscle tone obviously wasn't there yet, but I didn't expect it to anyway. He was getting cheekier and cheekier, which I can't fault. I love him. But yeah, so, and then the long winter started, that good old winter, and at that point, obviously, he was being turned out, and he got mud fever, which wasn't a problem. Mud fever's quite common. So I was dealing with that. He was still being turned out because we didn't think it was quite as bad as it got, although he had it in all 4 feet, but it wasn't a problem. He wasn't having problems with it. I was making sure it was clean and getting rid of everything that I could, dealing with it properly. But I got a couple of, I think it was about a week later after we found out that he had it, I got a text off of Laura saying pretty much, I think you need to call the vets. Toto's not in a good way. And I was like, shit, it was quite early in the morning. I hadn't been down there yet. So I texted her back. I was like, okay, I'll ring them. What do you think it is? And she was like, I think he's got cellulitis. So I was like, okay, all right. So I rang them and they pretty much said someone else was having the vet out the next day or the day after, I can't quite remember, to have a look at their horse. And she was like, do you want it at the same time? And at that point, I didn't know how bad it was. So I was like, yeah, no worries, no problem if it's easier. So I texted Laura back and I said, this is what's happening. She was like, I respect your opinion, but he is not in a good way at all. He's not moved. He's not eating anything. He's not drinking. So she was like, obviously, come down and look at him. If you think that he can wait till tomorrow or whenever it was, then that's fine. But I think just come see him now and see go from there. So I did. And it was heartbreaking to see because he was in the exact same place that I'd left him the previous night. As I said, he'd not drunk anything because he couldn't move. He'd not eaten anything. He'd not eaten any hay. At that point, he was meant to be on ad lib forage because he was meant to constantly be eating, keeping his gut movements. And so that, I think, was a very hard point for me because it's sort of everything came rushing back because he just started to look like a proper horse and that he was actually wanting to get better, because that's the biggest problem people have with rescue horses, is that you can want for it as much as possible, but if that horse doesn't want to get better, it can't happen, or it won't, or it will be the hardest task of your life. And up until then he had, in my opinion. But yeah, so I called the vets straight away and they were brilliant. They got there in like half an hour, 45 minutes, I think. And we hadn't been able to move him, but I knew that we'd have to get him out, or at least in a different position, because he was in quite an awkward position for the vets to be able to like look at him properly. So it was awful. We had to move him out, and I'd never seen anything look as in much pain as what he looked. I cried. Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like he was dying or anything, but seeing him back in a place so vulnerable and so painful, it was awful. It was genuinely nasty to go through. But yeah, so the vets cleaned him up, gave me a lot of antibiotics, painkillers, all of this lot, and agreed with Laura, said he had quite a bad case of cellulitis. His back right leg had pretty much swollen up like a bloody tree trunk. He couldn't walk. Well, he could walk, but yeah, not well. He then started eating stuff when he could actually get to it, but it was the point that he couldn't get to it. So once he was moving, he was fine. But yeah, it's sort of, from there, it went downhill a little bit. I had the vet, it was awful. He kept getting worse. I had the vet out, I think 4 days in a row, giving me more and more stuff, pretty much saying, oh yeah, he's getting better, but yeah, just keep going, sort of thing. And then he was tested for Cushing's, and that turned up negative, which is good. But yeah, so he he wasn't allowed out at all. He was having to be walked, I think it was like once every hour for 10 minutes, and it had to be like a proper walk, so which was excruciating to see, because he was moving him was just awful. He hated it. He didn't want to get out of his stable. It was watching him like so vulnerable and such a bad way took me back to day one, really. But I had to do it. I knew that it'd get better doing that, so sort of like a tough mum sort of thing, like they don't understand it, but you have to get them through it. And he did. He got through it. He still now, to this day, his leg's a little bit swollen. It's not bad. He is perfectly fine. He's sound, which is the best thing you can hope for. But I guess always going to be there sort of thing, which is sad, but it's just life, unfortunately. Yeah. So he got better. He recovered from that. He doesn't have mud fever at all anymore, which is good. But I think he was in his stable, bless him, for the total of about 3.5 months, which obviously for a horse is just not the best thing at all, because they're meant to be like herd animals. They want to be with their friends. They want to be out eating grass. They want to be like moving around, and he just wasn't able to do it. And all I got constantly was people going, "Your horse is amazing. Like, if my horse was in for this long, he'd be like kicking the walls down." He was so sweet. It's funny because thoroughbreds have such a bad image on them. They go, "Oh, you've got a thoroughbred. Oh, how can you do that?" And all of this stuff. But he sort of has broken down all the typical stereotypes, and I love it. But yeah, everyone at the yard loved him. They thought he was such a sweetheart. Yeah, so that was good. We got past yet another wall. And he was getting much better, so I started to exercise him again. All the same things, lunging, long reining, and then I'd been told by that first vet that I probably wouldn't be able to ride for about 1.5 years. I'd had lots of other visits from the vet, and on the last visit I said, realistically, how long do you actually think it will be before I can ride him, if at all? And she said, a month, maybe, top. I mean, if you see how it goes, then maybe that's a different story. But he was in himself, his back at that point had got so much better, because the risk was, if I'd got on him, or anyone had got on him in the way he was, it just wouldn't have ended up very well. But obviously his muscle had been building, he put on weight, it was going well. So that was something for me to look forward to. I was also slightly terrified about the whole idea of getting on this horse that hadn't been ridden in a very long time. But there you go, it was exciting. So yeah, it came around quite a while after, but I wanted to make sure that he was in the best place for it, and I was as well, because I just didn't want to risk something bad happening and then both of us regret it. Or not that he can regret it because he's a horse, but yeah, I just didn't want anything bad happen that could be avoided. So the day came around, I had Laura helping me because I'd lunged him with a saddle. I'd got him used to me like putting weight on him. I'd like laid across his back and stuff, and he was fine. He didn't flinch with any of that stuff. So yeah, I'd had a bit of a problem with lunging him, so he'd go perfectly on the left rein, and I could not at all, no matter what I do, get him on the right rein, and it was causing a bit of a problem. We all thought if I got on him, he'd go on the right rein fine. It might have just been a lunging problem. We'd be able to sort it out once we'd got on. So we got on. I got on. Laura had him on a lunge rein, because obviously at that point none of us knew exactly how he would react, so we just wanted to be safe. And he was fine, he was perfect. We set him off on the left rein and he was amazing. He was a bit a bit unbalanced, a bit unsure, but the more we were like, yeah, it's fine, he was good, he was reacting really well. And then it came to going round on the right rein, and oh gosh, yeah, so Al thought that he'd be fine. Yeah, it didn't go very well. He didn't throw me off or anything, he just was, he was doing these little hops with his front feet. It was quite funny, but yeah, so I got off, and Laura, thank you Laura, lunged him round on the right rein, and yeah, she got him to do it. And since then, I've not had a problem on the lunge anyway. Sometimes he's a bit cheeky, but that's him, he's a cheeky boy. So yeah, so I didn't get back on because he'd done what we wanted him to do. He'd been really good, praised him very well. That was amazing. So for our first ride, could not have wished for better, really. And again, I want to thank Laura so much for that, because I don't think, if I didn't have her sort of pushing me into it, not pushing me, but encouraging me that I was ready, because I knew I was, but I just didn't have the guts to go on, Paige, do it. And I'm glad that she was there doing it. Yeah, so that was that. And I continued to then, my confidence was so much higher. I was riding him a lot. I was exercising him a lot. He had his rest days and he loved them. He was then put onto 2 feeds because he'd put on a good amount of weight. And that stayed steady and he was fine. Muscle was starting to look like it was getting somewhere. He was building some tone. His weight was still putting on, which was good. His personality was even better. He is the cheeky chap on the yard. Well, there's quite a few cheeky chaps in our yard, but yeah, so he was really starting to shine through. I think it was like my 3rd ride on him. I had some people there, I think, not with me, but there were people on the yard, and I fell off him. And I think it was more my pride. If there wasn't people on the yard, I would have been like, oh, I don't know if I want to get back on. But I just went to the toilet, washed my hands, I had a few grazes on my hands, but who cares? Got back on, and I was like, right, let's do it. And we did. And he was fine. It was sort of a miscommunication. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. But yeah, and so we were fine, and we've been working together, we've been getting better, he's been learning, I've been learning. It's really been up and down ride for us both. It's been a tough journey. But yeah, he's amazing. So we kept working, we had a goal. I was going to take him to Brook Farm, I think it was, this month. Just for in-hand showing and ridden novice, I think. We'd had a bad couple of rides, and I think, as any other rider will know, when that happens, it really can get you down. Like, everyone has a bad ride every now and then, but when it's like quite consecutive and it's like 3 or 4 rides in a row, it really does get you down. But you just have to go with it and you have to carry on, and that's what I'm grateful for, the people around me that sort of told me to do that. Laura, my sister, my mum sort of kept pushing me into it. They were like, just do it. You've done it now. You've got there. You just have to keep pushing on. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. So I did. I just kept working. And then I got on him, and he was amazing. After these couple of bad rides, he was so good. He was back to the perfect pony. He was so kind. He was doing everything I was asking. And then I guess because I was in such a good place right then in that ride, that moment in time, I think I pushed him a bit too far. Obviously, I'm still learning what his signs are. I'm still learning when he's had enough. And obviously, I didn't clock it. And he bucked me about 4 times. And I managed to seat them. But then he sort of spun out to the left. And I sort of got chucked right over his right shoulder. And I landed really badly. all on the right side of my body. So I dislocated my shoulder. I bruised all the right side of my body. So like my knees, both my knees somehow were like covered in cuts and bruises, all down my shins. My hip still hurts now, my ribs, and I broke a bone in my hand, fractured a bone in my hand. And I sort of, I don't know, I was more upset with myself. I've not still now, this happened like last Thursday night, but this still now, I'm not angry or upset with him. I'm really ashamed of myself that I didn't read him properly and that I pushed him too far, because I feel like if I hadn't, and if I just left it at the good part, then that would have been a really, really good ride. I still see it as a good ride. I still see it as him doing amazingly and us working together so well. But that was just a bit of a setback. Obviously, I've not been able to do much with him now. I'm going to get back into it though. I've been lunging him with my left hand, which is quite hard because he is quite strong and I'm quite useless with my left hand. But I've also had my mum helping me out a hell of a lot with his chores, because obviously I was finding it, I couldn't muck out and stuff. I could make his feeds and stuff, but things like that I just couldn't do. It was too painful. Yeah, so I have been quite upset about it because we are now not able to go to the show that we were planning on going to, which is devastating, but there's always more shows and obviously we need more preparation time anyway. So, but yeah, he has been behaving really well on the lunge. I've just been lunging him, working him, trying to make sure that he doesn't lose too much muscle whilst I'm in the process of recovering myself. He is just being a little angel. He's reminding me why I do it. Obviously, still I go through points now when I look back on the pictures of how he was, and it is really hard to wrap my head around how someone could do such a thing. Because he's such a kind horse, he's so gentle, he's so loving, there's not one bone in his body that's nasty or malicious, and I just don't understand how someone can actually do that. Obviously you get it a lot, you get dogs, cats, rabbits, I don't know, any animal gets abused obviously, and it just shouldn't happen. And I feel like sharing my story, I really, really, really want to get more people in this world to do what I've done. I know not everyone can do it because not everyone's in the position. I mean, I wasn't in the position. I wasn't financially stable. I wasn't emotionally stable, but I did it, and I am in such a better place now because of it. I have an amazing job. I love my job. I have amazing people around me. I've surrounded myself with people that make me grow as a person, and I thank everyone for that. I really, really, really want to thank Laura for pushing me to my limits, for scaring me sometimes, but really helping him. You're a sturdy person in his life, and I thank you for that. And I thank my sister, because she has been the one person from day one that has not ever said that I've done the wrong thing. And she's pushed me to the point where I believed I had some very, very, very down points in my life, and she's always been that person to get me through them, no matter what it's been about or who it's been about or why it's happened. She's always got me through. And my side of the family with her, like my nephew, I love him to pieces, and he loves the horse, which is great, and my brother's helped out a few times. But my sister, I've pretty much everyone in my life has doubted me with this. They all say I've done a great job now, which is great, and I'm not having a go at anyone for that or anything. And I thank you all so much for your lovely comments. It really does hit a soft spot in my heart. But Charlie, thank you so much, because you're the one person that had that little bit of belief in my head that I could do this and that I could help this horse out. And I think if you weren't there pushing me, I don't think I would have been able to do as well as I have. But yeah, so obviously I am now going to start doing this properly. This was my sort of introductory video. So because a few people of you know a little bit about Toto's situation, not many know how bad it actually was. Obviously I've uploaded some pictures that are quite gruesome, but they're pictures and I guess they speak 1,000 words. Yeah, I'm just going to carry this on now. I don't know if I'll be doing videos daily, but I'll definitely be keeping everyone up to date. I've got a Facebook profile, a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and I'll be doing a YouTube account. I'll just basically videos of us training, me talking to you, talking at you all. But yeah, I really hope that you can join in on the journey. When he's fighting fit, I hope that all you equestrians, if any of you want to come and see him, or any of my friends want to come and see him, I'm always open. He loves visitors. I love people actually going and seeing him, because it's all well and good seeing a picture, but I don't think people realise how amazing it is animals are, or horses especially are, until you actually see them in the flesh. But yeah, so thank you all for listening. It's been tough. It's been a long 7, nearly 8 months, but I really urge people to do stuff on a limb. Just do it. If you think twice, you won't do it. So yeah, thank you very much.